Got this great sketch from day 25 of 30 Days of Sketches with Christy's Beautiful Life, and I'm going to play around with it. I'm going to sort of centralize it so it's sort of like a middle piece in a layout. I've got these two photos here, so if we look at the sketch, I've kind of just shrunk them down and I'm just going to do it central. What I've also picked up is there was a cut file by Confessions of a Paper Addict, and I've cut this out on some stencil paper, and I'm going to either do some spraying or some inking or something like that for on the background and then I'm going to layer the photos with some papers and some embellishments and things up the top and down here. Possibly some typed journaling to fit with these journaling strips, and a title sort of in here a little bit. So here we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out some Distress Oxides, and I'm going to just blend through this cut file that I created using some 9x12 stencil sheets on the Cricut and a gorgeous cut file called Falling Hearts by Confessions of a Paper Addict. So you can find that store on Etsy, but I'm just using the blending tool here to push through the colour through this stencil. So I'm just pulling out a few colours. I end up using 4, so I'm just trying to blend them together a wee bit in this process. And just sort of pulling them in, and I kind of got inspiration from the photos that I decided I was using, and also just colours that I thought would help it pop. There's been lots of rainbow pages and things lately, and these look absolutely gorgeous, but I just wanted to pull in some of that rainbow kind of colour, that a bit of brightness, a bit of interest in the background of this layout. So here I pulled out 4 different colours, and then I go back and I add a softer pink over on that sort of grey colour there. I will try and list the colours I've used down the bottom. So now I've sort of got this waterfall effect, or these different colours here on this piece of White Daisy cardstock. Now I'm just looking at these with the photo on here and thinking about position, checking the sketch again, and working out what it's going to look like. And so what I decided to do is I decided to actually trim down the White Daisy cardstock. Instead of leaving it as it is, I decided to trim it down to about a 10x10 square, and then I go through some of my papers that I sort of put together in a kit before I went to the beach last weekend, so I could carry on with the sketches away from home. I put together a bit of a kit using some papers I liked from my stash, and thinking of the kinds of photos I might have been able to scrap depending on what sketches came up in the group with Christy. So here I've just pulled out some papers that I think will back it, as well as that cute rainbow paper in the background there, which I'm just going to put the cardstock onto. So I've sort of pulled out some bold colours and sort of some blacks and things like that, just to give a little bit of a pop behind these photos. And I grab a piece of scrap White Daisy cardstock. I decided to keep the height of it, or the width of it, the way it was, and I'm just sticking these onto it and then just cutting them roughly with the micro tip scissors. I recently I've misplaced my original pair of scissors that I'd had for the last sort of 3 or 4 years, and I have missed them dearly. Just they cut beautifully, and I can sort of always trust them to be able to cut stuff, even sticky stuff. And because it's sort of got a non-stick thing, you can sort of peel the sticky stuff off. So I miss them, and I've had to buy another pair to replace it. Hopefully the other pair will turn up one day, and then I'll have 2, which will be even handier. Anyway, I've chosen a few scrap pieces of paper, and I have sort of backed these photos quite randomly. But as I sort of placed them on, I was thinking, okay, what colours work here? What looks right? What helps the photo stand out from that background but adds a bit of interest? So I'm just now taping each of them down, no particular rhyme or reason to the neatness, and I've stuck them down. So now I'm going through my sticker stash, and I'm just choosing little stickers that will work, tucking in those two sides of the photo, a bit like the sketch had. I think they were kind of flowers coming up into that top right corner and the bottom left. And I've chosen some stickers that'll work as a title. So I've got that round one up the top that says "You're cute," and then I pull out that black one down the left, just where I put the yellow one underneath, says "Time Together," and the yellow one says "This Is Us." And "This Is Us" is kind of the title, I guess, of this layout. So just pulling out the sticker sheets, looking and seeing what might work. Can I use something up or not? And I did kind of want to use that tiger you just saw in the Sweet Safari, just thinking of my cat up the top there, Boxer, how he's just sort of staring out at us under the chair. That was after he had scratched it. And I was taking a photo of him for my daughter, who is away in Hamilton, which is another town from us, and just sending her some pictures on Snapchat of her cat Boxer just being his usual crazy self. So now I'm just sticking down some of these stickers. That black one that I've put there says "Home." So now I'm going to add, I want to ink up some more wooden hearts. So I'm using, I think it's picked raspberry. You've got to excuse the top of my other one over there, the bluey greeny coloured one, because I have mounted all of the little foam pieces on the back of my ink of these Distress Oxides, and must have been the picked raspberry one was sitting on top of it, and it's kind of seeped through to the label, but that doesn't actually matter. It's still quite functional. I've since got a storage container that keeps them separate, but that means these little foam bits can stay there. So inked up these wooden hearts, and I have now also typed my journaling. So I mentioned at the very start I might type in some journaling here. So I've just grabbed a lined piece of pattern paper, and now I'm just sort of roughly trimming that down, and I will retrim some of it a bit later on to work. And so just pulling out these strips, and then I can work out where I'm going to cut them. So the first one was fairly easy because it just finished. I'd already done the full stop. The next sentence I kind of had to cut part way through, but part of that was making sure it would fit on the page in that gap and not cover up people in the photograph. So I've now got these 4 strips, trimming them down a little bit more, just so that they fit in there the way I want them to, and sort of positioning it a little bit. So I am going to use the blue Tombow glue there, but before I stick them down, I'm just going to rough up all the edges around all these photos, just a bit more homeliness, a bit more texture. And pulling up these edges, I just sort of curl them around a little bit and tear them from time to time. And this is what I do if I've forgotten to use my edge distresser around the edges first. So now I'm going to use that glue, just a strip along it, and going to stick that down. My little Tombow tape runner ran out when I was sticking the photos onto the photo mats. Otherwise I possibly would have used that just for speed. And it takes a little bit less time to dry, but I have been enjoying using this blue Tombow glue lately. It seems to hold things down nicely, and it's just always there, less mess. So I'm using the white Tombow glue to stick down the wooden hearts once I've decided where I want them all. So you can just see how I've pulled the kind of the colours from the photo. So on the back of the sofa there's a greeny blue blanket which ties in nicely to the Distress Oxide that I've used to colour those some of the wooden hearts. And then the pink's just a nice pink, and it goes quite well with the Distress Oxide backgrounds there, the other colours I'd used in the background. So now I'm just sort of sticking those down and do a little bit of extra pressure on them to make sure that they are going to stay stuck to the page and not come off. Check the sketch again, thinking, okay, what else do I need to do? And there was a little bit of journaling up in that top right section, so I just added the date. And now I am using the liquid pearls just to add some dots, and I've used a black and a pale blue colour just around those, sort of random, kind of visually random, organised around the page. Sort of the odd wee cluster around where the hearts are, just fitting with that sketch how the embellishments were kind of grouped. So just placing those around. Actually, I didn't use the blue, I used the greeny colour. I couldn't find my blue. It's all sort of packed away from some scrap days and scrap weekends I was at, and I can't work out where I put them. So you can see those dots and a little bit of texture there. Now having a look at it, I felt that it needed a little bit of separation, the white cardstock, from that gorgeous rainbow background. So I've just grabbed the 0.5 nib journaling pen and just added an extra line around it, and it turned out just the way I want it. Thanks for watching.